the Joyo Infinite Sustainer and the TC Electronic Aeon. How do they compare with the venerable EBow? Let's find out. Greetings all. If you've been hanging out here on the channel, you know that the EBow is a big part of my sound and I use it a lot. Well, my EBow is about 15 years old. Let's get it on this camera here where you can see it maybe. And it's starting to crack. I had to tape it up a little bit and thinking, man, maybe it's time to get another one. But there are, as you may know, some, I'll call them EBow knockoffs or EBow-inspired devices on the market. And two of them are the Joyo Infinite Sustainer. Again, I'll put it down here so you can see it. And the TC Electronic Aeon. Now, I have demoed the Aeon on this channel about a year and a half ago, I think it was. But I never did a direct comparison with the EBow. So what I thought I would do is compare these devices together. And just for grins, since my old 15-year-old EBow is kind of getting a little long in the tooth, I went ahead and bought a brand new EBow. So I actually have 4 devices, and we're going to try them all out and see how they do. First up is my venerable 15-year-old EBow. This is the one you've heard on this channel. So I'm going to use this kind of as a control, if you will. I'm going to compare everything to this. So I've got it turned on, and you can see that there's a little blue light there. And there we go, little blue light. And that indicates it's on, and I've got it set to normal mode. And here's what that sounds like. Kind of that nice, classic flute-like type of sound. And as you'll note, as I play over the pickup, it gets louder. That is something you'll see that is consistent across all the devices. All right, great. Let's try the harmonic mode. So the EBow has a second mode that drives the upper harmonics of a tone. You can really hear it when you play the first few frets. A really nice tone. Yeah, you've probably heard me do that a couple times where you can actually take the EBow and kind of run it into the string and get a really cool tone. Especially with a little bit of delay. All right, so that's my control. Nice sound. This is, again, this has been my sound for 15 years. Let me go ahead and grab the new EBow. This is like new. I got it like within the last week. Now, what I notice about the new EBow is it really is the same as my 15-year-old EBow, with the exception of a darker plastic housing. So the battery compartment is the same. The build quality is the same. Some of you all have posted here and said, hey, the EBow build quality kind of sucks. You know, it seems kind of flimsy. And I don't disagree with that, although I think it's surprisingly durable. At least for me, I've dropped mine many times. It has the same rails and the same switch. So let's go ahead and try that out. And oh, by the way, before I forget, all of these devices have fresh, brand new 9-volt batteries. Bought a pack, so they're all the same brand batteries, same batch, everything. Okay, here's what the new EBow sounds like. All right, let's go back to that control EBow real quick here and listen to the same thing. very similar. I can't really tell a difference. And it feels the same. I'll talk about feel a little bit later, but all right. So EBow, brand new, EBow 15 years old, pretty darn close, almost indistinguishable. Let's go to the TC Electronic Aeon. Before we go any further, I don't know what happened. I had a brain fart, brain blip, who knows? TC Electronic pronounces this Eon, not Aeon. Sorry about that, TC. All right, if you're interested in my full demo of the Aeon, I will provide a link at the end of this video so you can check that out. But in the meantime, you'll note that this is a significantly different form factor. It kind of looks like a lighter, right? And you hold it more upright, so it's kind of vertical. It does have the same kind of rails at the bottom, and it takes that 9-volt battery. This does not have the Harmonizer mode. It only has what I would call the normal mode. And so let me go ahead and turn it on here, and let's check it out. All right, now you may have seen when I switched the strings that it got caught. And I did mention that on the original video. This device is not as smooth with string switching as the original EBow is. And I didn't do that on purpose, okay? So again, go back and watch my original demo. One of the other things I notice about this is that even though TC Electronics says it's more powerful than the old EBows, and maybe they're referring to the EBows from the 1970s, I don't find this one to generate as much energy as the original EBow. So that's the Aeon. I want to say Eon, but Aeon, A-E-O-N. And let me go ahead again and play my control EBow against that. Let me get them both turned on here so you can hear them side by side, or close to side by side. Whoop. I can't do that with two EBows or two devices in one hand. Here we go. Let me flip here real quick. There we go. I haven't used the Aeon. I keep wanting to say Aeon. The Aeon a whole lot, so I am not used to the rails here. So I shouldn't have made that big of an error there in switching strings. But it would take me, a couple sessions of playing this to really kind of get used to it again. Anyhow, that's the Aeon. Let's move on to the Joyo Infinite Sustainer. All right, here is the Infinite Sustainer. As you can see, the form factor is a lot more similar to an EBow. And it's got the battery compartment on the top, and it does have a normal and harmonizer mode. So let me go ahead and switch it on normal mode, and it's got a little funky blue light there. Again, very much like the EBow, and here's what this sounds like. My impressions of this one are, one, it's very similar in power to the original EBow, my original and the newer EBow. As a matter of fact, sometimes, as I've played this over the last few days, sometimes I feel like it actually might be a little more powerful and generate more string energy than the EBow, in particular when it is held over the pickup. Let me do that again so you can kind of hear it, thinking about it here. Let me go ahead and try my EBow here, and let's see what that does with that same kind of line. Yeah, so very, very, very similar. In terms of string switching, let me get that in my pocket there. Let's try a little string switching here. Okay, it's not bad. It's not bad at all, actually. I do think, however, that the EBow is a little smoother. That could very well be because I'm accustomed to the EBow. You know, I've been playing it for a long time. The next test will be the Harmonizer mode of the Infinite Sustainer, the Joyo device, and let's hear what that sounds like. Yeah, that is very similar to the EBow. Let me try that Harmonizer mode again on the EBow so you can hear that. Oh, yeah. I personally like the EBow Harmonizer mode better than the Infinite Sustainer, but the Infinite Sustainer, yeah, it's not bad. It does, you know, if you add in distortion, delay, reverb, you know, do the ambient guitar thing that we all know and love here, you're going to get some pretty decent sounds, I think, out of this. All right, that's a quick comparison across the three devices, the EBow, the Aeon, and the Infinite Sustainer. So if you're in the market to purchase a sustain device, how do you go about figuring out which one to get? Well, I think the first thing to think about is cost. So if budget is an important factor in your decision, the Aeon and the Infinite Sustainer are cheaper than the EBow. They're about $30, I think about $30 or so cheaper as of the shooting of this video. So that's going to be about 25 to 30% less. So the next thing, let me put the EBow in my pocket again. The next thing to think about is the construction of the device itself. Is having an indestructible shell, relatively indestructible shell, an important thing for you? Is that a really important factor? You know, maybe you're a gigging musician, you're in bars and clubs on a regular basis, equipment gets thrown around and dropped. If that's a concern, the Aeon is probably something you want to look at because it does have a brushed stainless steel case or shell, if you will, and it's pretty indestructible. It does not have the same kind of cheaper plastic feel that even the EBow has, and it doesn't have the little kind of cracks where the pieces of plastic kind of come together to make the shell. The Infinite Sustainer, its construction is very similar to the EBow. I'm guessing they're very similar materials. A third thing to consider is the strength of the signal. Okay, so if that's something that's important to you, then the EBow or the Infinite Sustainer are going to do better than the Aeon. Now, If you're a player that's using higher gain signals, so maybe you're plugged into an amp and you've got a gritty or dirty or even a full overdrive sound, then the strength of the signal is not so important, because you're going to get a lot of gain, a lot of sound anyhow with those types of settings. And the Aeon does just fine alongside of the EBow and the Joyo in that case. But if you're like me and you generally use clean signals for your EBow guitar, that's pretty clean, isn't it? Okay. If you're using cleaner signals, then the ability to drive the string harder could very well be a deciding factor for you. And I would say in this case that the EBow and the Joyo are very, very close. Okay, so they drive the string really, really well. All right, a fourth thing to consider is string switching. So is that important to you? Are you a player that, if you're like me and you've grown up on the EBow and you've got a lot of years of practice with it, maybe you're really good at switching strings while playing the EBow, you're going to find the Aeon disappointing. Seriously, you're going to find it disappointing. The rails that ride on the adjacent strings they're not square, but they have sharp edges, and it makes it a lot more difficult to switch strings. So that leaves the EBow and the Joyo, and they are very similar. And as I look at the rails, and you're not going to be able to see them too well here, but as I look at the rails, even the rails are very similar, but the EBow rails are a little shorter in length. And so what I notice when I play it, when you switch strings on one of these devices, the best way to do it, give you a quick lesson here, is to very slightly tilt the device. See how that is on my hand? And that allows you just to kind of glide across the strings. And what I'm noticing is that with the longer rails on the Infinite Sustainer, it's not quite as easy to tilt the device as the EBow. So the Joyo's decent. Now, don't get me wrong. It is decent at string switching. You could do a lot worse than this. But I do have to give the nod just a little bit to the EBow in terms of string switching. So if you're in the market for one of these guys, I hope this video has been helpful in kind of evaluating which one is the best for you. I also have a playlist here of other demos and EBow and Sustainer related stuff that you'll find interesting. Please check it out. See you all on the next video.